I found this tasty tone. And I thought, how can I make that even more delicious and maybe just tighten it up a little bit? Well, the Whitey Tighty from JHS Pedals. That's right, Whitey Tighty. That's right. I found a compressor, and I'm going to use it today to not only show off its versatility in both clean and dirty tones, I'm going to show you how to spice up an otherwise kind of bland sounding lick that you may be constantly playing. You know the one I'm talking about? Look, there's nothing wrong with that, but we get stuck in pentatonics. It happens to every guitar player, no matter your skill level. Well, I mean, unless you're Wayne Krantz or somebody like that, who seemingly never runs out of notes. We all get in these ruts, and for my experience, I get stuck in blues, and I think there's a lot of different ways that you can break out of these little ruts, and they can actually be implemented without necessarily getting better or faster, so to speak. It's more about just sort of changing your mindset more than anything else. So with the help of the Whitey Tighty compressor from JHS Pedals, which you can check out down below, I'm going to show you a little blues nuance that you may be dialed into a little too frequently, and then I'll show you how a little bit of inspiration can maybe take you out of that comfort zone and allow you to create something that you may never have thought to create before. And we'll start with that exact lick. So by nature, it is just ergonomically friendly. But as a result, everybody knows it. Everybody likes to play it. It's never really that original. So what I am proposing is not necessarily to throw away that lick, but when your tendency comes to play it, say you have a nice little instead of going to that lick right away, challenge yourself to play 2 notes. Only 2 notes. It could be any 2 notes you want. Try and pick ones that maybe sound a little more flavorful than these notes right here. So if we wanted to break this down, if we're in this C minor sound, we have this note right here. So that is the 4th. And then we're coming up here to this note, which is the 4th. And then we're coming up to this note, which is the root. And we're coming up to this note, back to the 4th, and the root. So really we're just playing a 4th and a root. That's kind of a boring combination, so you can understand how this riff might get a little tired sounding. So choose something that is colorful, maybe a 9, or even a 3rd, minor 3rd, always a nice choice, maybe a flat 7. So one of those handful of notes, the 9, the 3rd, or the flat 7 over any chord usually sounds pretty awesome, especially when you're keeping things sparse. So I'm going to throw on a chord progression and demonstrate how you don't have to get rid of this, but if you wait to throw it in, kind of tease it a little bit, and use the strategy of literally taking away notes, playing less. Less is more. You'll see how when you do finally come to that climactic phrase, it'll sound pretty nice. Another way you can manipulate this phrase is by teasing it out and sort of drawing out this line. So if we have these 5 notes, how can we draw this out and choose some of those different intervals to not necessarily change the phrase completely, but maybe add in a little bit of spice. I like to do this with bends, so I'll throw in a couple different iterations and we can sort of talk through it together. So essentially what I'm doing here is interrupting myself with these bends, and I'm choosing to bend in the middle of the phrase, and like I said, creating these rhythms that are not typical to that average standard blues phrase. That, again, there's nothing wrong with it, but we're just trying to make it sound a little bit more interesting to the ear. And by interrupting myself or throwing in an anticipated rhythm with these bends, you can really change the feel and the dynamic of your guitar playing. All that you're doing here is, instead of sticking to this minor pentatonic, we are taking a couple choice notes from the natural minor sound. So, as you can see there, the compressor allows you to sort of have a little bit less talent. Wait, no, not talent. I almost said talent. I did say talent. You still need, I guess, talent, but you don't have to work as hard, I guess is what I'm saying. So the compressor gives you this piece of the pie where you have this, and it's just giving you that sustain. So that is the beauty of a compressor, especially on a clean signal. So when I'm going for these bends, that is nice sustain for a clean sound. Imagine if I popped on a little distortion. We'll go ahead and kick on the whitey-tighty. We haven't eliminated that phrase from our blues guitar playing. We've simply amended it by excluding it for the first portion of our improvisation by just playing a couple little nice sweet notes, maybe a third, a ninth, a flat seven. And then when we do go to attack that phrase, we maybe interrupt it or anticipate other notes, maybe bends, to sort of give it a different vibe than it normally has. And then, of course, you can just go straight back to it after you've teased it long enough. And that is what makes it an effective phrase. Now, let's get to another piece of the puzzle, how you can improve your blues guitar phrasing by basically taking exactly what you know about the minor pentatonic scale and why it's such a friendly scale to guitar players, and applying that to those other intervals that I mentioned before. So why do we all play the minor pentatonic scale? Well, because it's easy to play. It's only 5 notes and there's only 2 notes on each string, so it's really easy to get under the fingers pretty quickly. So what's stopping us from taking another scale that maybe has a little bit more tonal color to it and just applying the 2-note pattern to that? So for example, let's take the scale, or I should say mode, that nobody thinks is that usable, Locrian. And let's take 1 note away from each of those strings to form a customized 2-note scale. Maybe something like this. If you don't like that, we can change it. Maybe something a little in between. Any iteration of that will work. And the interesting thing that I found this does for maybe people who aren't too familiar with modes outside of the minor pentatonic scale shapes is it eliminates the perception that you may have of, oh, I can't handle that, I can't learn that, that's more notes, more finger positions to deal with. You don't have to think of it that way. You can construct it in a way that is comfortable, and as a result, you can come up with these really, really magnificent sounding lines. By the way, if you're interested in learning more about mode positions and things of that nature, then check out Guitar Super System. It's linked right down below. What I like to do to take it a step further after you have these scale positions under your finger, these custom 2-note per string scales, is you can actually sort of let them cascade over each other. All right, I think we've transformed our blues guitar playing entirely now. That didn't even sound like blues. So obviously I was over embellishing these concepts to demonstrate them, but I think when you put some cool, maybe modern bluesy rock behind you, the result of implementing these things can be really, really inspiring. I hate to keep using that word, but I think all these notes that are just right beside the scales and positions that we're so very comfortable with, I think they can really open up new doors for musicians. If you're in the market for a sick compressor that gives you endless sustain and perfect tight tone, check out the JHS Whitey Tighty, and thanks for watching. Until next time, keep shredding.